Hey y'all, today we are going to be doing these medium large knotless braids. I always do about 2 rows in the back and then about 4 rows up at the front. So you'll see exactly what I mean in just a minute. Just to get those crisp parts, I always do like a rough draft and then I always add gel and then go in again on parting the hair just so that it is absolutely straight and perfect. For this client, I only used one gel. It is the Shine and Jam, the red jar. I'm sure you guys have seen me use it plenty of other times before, and I'll also leave it in the description box. Make sure you guys watch the entire video so you can learn all the tips and tricks for these medium large knotless braids. I'm going to be giving out a lot of information on what you need to know. So I always part the hairs into 3. Sometimes I do about 1 or 2 strokes before I add hair. It just all depends. Mostly, if the hair is finer, I try to add pieces that are relatively the same density as their hair. You don't want to start off with big pieces if the hair is finer. This client in specific has finer hair, so I had to use a lot of smaller pieces to then gradually grow into a larger braid. See, her hair, it's finer, so I'm going to use pieces that are smaller like her hair and then gradually go into using larger pieces so that the braid is the density that I want. This client is getting the color 30. Her hair is pretty light, as you can see. So the color is gonna really match well. If you have any type of like honey blonde or blonde tones, the color 30 will be really good if you have like blonde brownish hair. So since I have 4 braids on the bottom, I'm probably gonna end up with 5 on top. So I am separating these pieces to make sure that the braid that's gonna be on top is gonna fall in between the braids that are on the bottom, if that makes sense. So you don't want a braid to be on top of a braid when you start the next row. You want the braid to go in between 2 braids. I do have a large knotless braid tutorial that really specifies on how I add the gel, how I smooth the hair down, and how I add the pieces. It just is very, very detailed. I'll leave that somewhere on the screen so you guys are able to watch that video and get a good description of what you need to do when you're doing like large knotless braids, especially on thick hair, to get it super flat. Believe it or not, it is easier to do smaller braids just because it's not a big section you have to work with. this is medium large. When I am doing my large knotless braids, it is a lot to deal with just because it is a larger section of hair. Since this is medium large, it's not a lot of hair that I'm dealing with in this one square piece. But when you are doing large braids, it is harder. People think it's going to be easier and faster, and it is if you know what you're doing already. But I will say, if you want to practice doing knotless braids, I would start with small and gradually go into larger braids. Going into larger braids, you'll have to learn how to smooth down the hair better, use the comb, make sure you have enough gel, and make sure you know how to grip the hair because it is a bigger section. So by popular demand, I have been seeing a lot of people really like those Jada braids that have been done. The way her hair was parted was basically from ear to ear in the back and then from ear to ear on the top, if that makes sense. So right here, I'm parting it from ear to ear on the top. And then I've already done the braids in the back where it's ear to ear in the back. So I'm gonna part the front from the back, finish off the back section, and then come back to the front section of her hair. Now, I used to part like this a long time ago when I first started doing braids. I personally think when you part braids or hair like this does give you less braids, which is the look a lot of people are kind of going for nowadays. But if you're looking for something that's completely full, I recommend you to watch another video that I have on how I part, which is not from ear to ear at the top. I don't even do that. I just make sure I do a middle part and I part from ear to ear each row I'm going on, not from ear to ear from the top. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll leave a video card somewhere so that you guys know exactly what I mean. Now, with these braids, medium large, it is different for everybody because her hair is finer. I can't really make the braids as thick. I can, but it wouldn't be like a a gradual braid going from smaller to thicker in a nice way. So everybody's density of hair, the braids are going to look different. My hair versus her hair, my braids will probably look really thick and almost like large. But on her hair, it's going to look finer and smaller. The braids are going to look thinner, if that makes sense. A lot of people are going for a certain size, but sometimes it's harder depending on your density of hair. As a braider, she does have finer hair, and as a braider, I want to make sure that I'm not creating too much tension or making braids that are way too small for her hair. That'll create even more tension. So on one side of her head, there is probably one less braid just because there's not hair enough able to create a braid that'll be secure enough to section off into two, but instead I just put it into one. And it's not even noticeable, but it does happen. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I want it to be symmetrical, but depending on your hair, sometimes that's not gonna always be the case. So if you are a braider, or if you're someone who wants to braid and learn how to braid, these are things that do happen, and clients you will come across when doing knotless braids or braids in general. Now the top up here should always be symmetrical. She has about 3 braids at the top, and that's the exact same amount of braids I'm gonna do on the opposite side right here. So you wanna make sure that it is completely symmetrical at the top, because that is gonna be the most noticeable. Now on the sides, some people's hair is finer than others, so you might get away with, not being able to put 2 braids with just one, and it does happen. But at the top, it should absolutely be symmetrical. This is me just adding some mousse. I have completed the style. This took me about 3 to 4 hours. I also ended up leaving out the ends because she wanted them curled. And to get that nice curled look, I am going to use flexi rods. Sometimes I use perm rods, but for this specific, client, I used flexi rods this day. So I just use flexi rods, wrap a few braids together, and then dip it in hot water, and you guys will see that in just a second. Another thing is, yes, trimming the braids. I sometimes forget to do this part. I know this is so terrible to say. Sometimes I forget to do this part when I'm just talking to my client and I'm just going about my business. But trimming the hair and those flyaway pieces is actually really important, because it's really going to uniform the braid and just keep it from looking frizzy or unintact. So you want to make sure that nothing looks like it's unraveling too soon or anything like that. But trimming the braids is super important. this is the finished look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel to see more videos like this. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I'll see y'all in my next video.